What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a story time, and given that it is the first day of the spring school holidays here in Australia, I'm going to talk about spring break. I know that in the Northern Hemisphere generally spring break is around Easter time. That is not the case, obviously, the Southern Hemisphere, and therefore Australia. But regardless, similar things happen. For instance, going and sort of celebrating the warmer weather in sort of more quote-unquote tropical locations, more coastal areas, has definitely been sort of a mainstay, particularly considering most of my schooling I've been in inland rural communities. So the spring holidays was always a chance to go to the coast and go swimming, and really sort of get into that sort of summery vibe. Obviously, the summer holidays, the summer break here in Australia is also the Christmas break. That's a completely separate story we'll talk about in December. But here now, sort of spring break for me growing up always meant two things. The first one was that my birthday was very prominent. Luckily born in the right part of the year that my birthday, particularly in New South Wales, was almost consistently in like the middle of the holidays. This year is probably the closest I can think of within my lifetime. Probably not the only time it's occurred, I'm well aware of that, but it's definitely the closest in like recent memory that my birthday would have come to actually being during the school term. I was never one that had to go to school on my birthday, and I was always very thankful for that, because I already got picked on a bunch at school. Was always sort of bullied, and I can't imagine that would have gotten any better on my birthday, particularly when, birthday punches are a thing. I think that just would have given my aggressors an opportunity to actually be violent towards me and just make it seem like they were just being my friends, when that obviously wasn't the case. So yeah, and the second part was that it meant that we would be sort of returning to sort of my home city, my hometown essentially, being that I was born in a suburb of Brisbane, and most of my mum's family lives in various suburbs of Brisbane, none of which are my actual birth suburb, but one of my aunts currently lives in the suburb that we were living in. I believe, when I was born. Let me just double check my list of addresses here. Yeah, one of the two addresses that I don't have a memory of is actually in a suburb that one of my aunts currently lives in. So, yeah. We would usually go back to Brisbane, with the Sunshine Coast being just north of it and the Gold Coast being just south of it, going to like Movie World or Dream World or Sea World, or Wet n Wild. Usually only one of the four was something that we would do. There was a year there where we went to a place it's like a mirror maze sort of a thing, called Infinity. It's really, really fun. Each room has mirrors and the occasional glass panel that has a bunch of like laser lights pointed at different angles so that they bounce in interesting ways around the whole, the whole sort of maze area, so that when you initially enter the room, it just looks like it's a gaping expanse of space with, rainbow coloured stars. I think there was one that had just white ones, so it literally looked like just a big space with little stars, and you were just like entering the void. There's a room there that had strobe lights and was filled with like those like gym exercise balls. And I remember when we went, there was a particular occasion when my brother picked one up and threw it sort of in my direction. I'm sure not spitefully. Because of the strobing, I didn't see it coming until it was literally like this far away from my face, traveling at velocity. So I've just seen it light up, light's gone down, and I copped it straight to the face. It was almost instant karma in the next room when it was like a waterbed. I decided that it'd be really funny if you belly flop on it, because like you would walk in and it would feel like the floor just like gave way underneath you because it was like liquid or whatever, and he thought it'd be really funny if he like threw himself down and just sort of sunk into the floor. But it must be some sort of like viscous fluid, like when you put corn flour and water together and it makes like slime, where if you like touch it gently, your fingers sink in, but if you punch it, it's a solid. I'm assuming whatever the floor had under it that gave it that liquidy texture. Pretty sure that's what it was, because when he did it, there was quite audible thump, and then literally a second later he sinks in. So almost instant karma. We are also, for this particular trip, flashing back to a point where I was still scared of heights. We've opened the first curtain for the first room that looks like it has no floor, and my mother, being petrified of heights, has immediately grabbed the closest thing in front of her to try and throw out to see if it's safe, that thing being me. So that was fun. There was one year in particular where we decided we would go even further north than Brisbane, because my uncle, my mum's brother, lived in Hervey Bay. We decided we were going to go visit them for a few days. And on our way up, we gathered the rest of the relatives in Brisbane, and we went to Australia Zoo, which was really cool. This is quite a number of years back, now I think about it. yeah, we went to Australia Zoo, and as we were leaving, one of my aunts had the thought of playing a little prank on my mum, and we bought a rubber snake that we then sort of, in hindsight, would be very suspiciously walked quite quickly ahead of her to the car that we would all be going back to where we were all staying in, and we got in the car. We quickly sort of put the snake, the rubber snake, sort of around the headrest, and then sat back, and we were like, okay, don't say anything, don't say anything. My mum's gotten in, sort of talking, so I sat back, and it's only when she's gone to grab her seatbelt that she's seen the rubber snake, because we put the head on that side, so that she would have to look, so that she would, definitely see it when she turned to grab her seatbelt, and it's right there. And all we've seen is her, she's just stiffened up, and then in the most I'm about to murder someone voice I think I've ever heard from my mum, it was chilling, but it was very calm. And she said, "Whose idea was this?" And we'd all been laughing, thinking that it was a great prank up until that point. And then no one wanted to dob the other person in. No one wanted to be the first person to speak, basically. Yeah, we haven't been game enough to do any sort of prank like that on her since. So that's probably a thing. But then, yes, we'd all gone back on the trip back to a different aunt, where we were staying. On the trip back, there was a big hailstorm. We ended up having to stop underneath like an overpass bridge to seek shelter from the hailstones. We were there for probably like 10-15 minutes sort of thing, and then it just sort of subsided back to being just very heavy rain, and we were able to make it back safely without like getting the hailstone straight through the windshield. So yeah, that was a different sort of more sarcastic iteration of the word fun. And then I think it was the day after that we actually went up to Harvey Bay. We went to the Bundaberg Distillery, and sort of had a tour around there, which was fun. Getting to sort of see how they make the rum. Actually, now I think about it, that particular trip might have been my uncle's wedding, which is probably why all the family was there, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, there was one year where instead of doing that, though, my parents had actually been part of the sort of Teachers Federation in Australia. Might have been specifically the New South Wales part of that, and they had to attend a conference, and our idea was that we would go there because they had like a little sort of like vacation care thing during the conference that was run for children of people attending. And as part of that, we got to go to Taronga Zoo in Sydney. We got to go to, where else did we go? I think there was a day where they'd gone to where we'd gone to Luna Park, I think. And I'm sure there was a third day as well. I didn't get to go, however, because this was also the same year that the swine flu was buzzing about, and I got swine flu, which sort of put a big old hindrance on our plans afterwards, which had already been organised, and we'd already booked our accommodation, which was that afterwards we were actually going to be going south and visiting family. And so instead of being able to go out and do anything, we had to quarantine because I got swine flu. Yeah. So that was an interesting trip as well. Yeah. I'm trying to think, what else have I done for my during like my senior school years. I didn't do that so much, mainly because I was more sort of focused on trying to do my studies, particularly since the end of year 12, the spring break between the end of year 12 and my exams was also the year I turned 18. So it was a case of we finished school, I turned 18 during that time, and then afterwards we had our exams and stuff. And at the end of, I do remember the end of my final exam, myself and my friend went to the RSL for like a celebratory. And by the time we got there, we were just doing like a celebratory lunch sort of a thing, with drinks. But yeah, didn't really do spring break so much those years. 2013's student exchange wasn't really a spring thing for me. I went over in January, so I went from doing summer into doing winter. Was there for about 2 months, came back and it was autumn again. So 2013 had 2 winters for me, which was, it's an interesting thing to say, but that's how it is. And then thereafter, the rest of my time in Inverell, I had a full-time job, so I would be able to, take like my birthday off, and I would put that down as like unavailable for that particular day, and like I would be taking like a leave sort of a thing on that day. But otherwise, yeah, no such luck as far as the holidays are concerned. And then it's kind of been like that since. Like it's even been a number of years since my sister graduated, so we haven't really had any sort of spring break in a while. I do know this year my brother is having a spring break. He's going up, I believe tomorrow. I say that knowing that it's 2:30 in the morning. Tomorrow, he's leaving to go to visit his son in Armidale and sort of have a bit of a holiday himself, which is always good to sort of get away. I know that most of that time he's going to be spending with my nephew, but I kind of hope he gets to visit some friends in Inverell as well. I know that they would like that. It's just whether or not it's a priority on my brother's list or not. Yeah, I don't really think I have a whole heap else for, as far as spring break's concerned. I didn't really do schoolies. It wasn't really my scene. Partying's never really been my scene. And like even now, I've got friends who, you know, any excuse to have a drink is a good excuse, sort of a thing. You know, and they prefer to do that socially. Like they any social excuse really is what I mean there. So I'm kind of looking forward to having some drinks with some mates in like a fortnight's time when it is actually my birthday. But yeah, I haven't had like a spring break in a while. And so if I get into afters next year, I'm kind of looking forward to being able to have a spring break. I'm probably gonna invite my friend to like I could probably invite a friend from up here to come visit me down there and take them to a whole bunch of places. I'm thinking, depending on when my semester break is closest to my birthday, I'm thinking of bringing my best friend from Kempsey down, and you know, going to like, because I know that they have young children, so taking them to, you know, like a cineplex in the city, taking them to Luna Park, taking them to Taronga Zoo in Sydney. I know that this year they had plans to go down there for the aquarium, so doing that with them would be cool. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to being able to have another spring break, because it's been a while. But yeah, that's sort of all I've got for this video. We'll finish it off, as we always do, with our questions for myself. Today's number 15. What worries me most about the future? Why does it worry me? How does worrying about this affect me in my life? And how does it impact me now? What do I worry most about the future? See, that's an interesting question that actually, eerily enough, echoes back to my social anxiety video that I did, whereby I'm the kind of person that likes to plan things, and you know, like have sort of a general, here is where I am, here is where I want to be, and this is the ideal path to get there. This is plan A. But that doesn't mean that I don't have, you know, enough foresight to be like, I'm probably going to come up with a big issue at this point, so if it doesn't go the way I want it to go, this is what I can do to get around the issue. You know, and I'll have like a plan B sort of thing. So trying to figure out what worries me the most about the future is kind of interesting, because I've probably already put into place some form of a plan to work around it, and therefore it doesn't worry me as much. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be cost of living in Sydney. That's probably what worries me most, because I'm going to have to do that for 3 years while I'm studying at AFTRS. But even then, I've already got some ideas. I've got the ideas of sort of, once I know I'm going to be going, of trying to get a share house sort of thing, applying for Oz study and getting put onto that payment instead of the job seeker, so I have more time to actually focus on studies. I'm applying for scholarships. They'll take that edge off. I know that I can put all of my school fees onto like a student debt loan thing. They call it fee help. Essentially, it just sort of gets all put onto a thing. It's just sort of like an afterpay sort of deal, where like, here's the amount that I owe, and once I start working, I just start paying that off. I guess that's the same as like a student debt, right? And as much as I don't really want that, I'm kind of glad that that's an option, because I'm going to be taking it. It also is very comforting to know the course that I'm going to be doing. At the end of that, there is like AFTRS does have industry connections to get me some sort of job in the industry, so that I can pay off that debt, which is great to know. Yeah, and yeah, at least for the first year, being part of a share house, while not ideal, is probably something that I'll just live with, because I know, or I'm hoping at least, that come my second year, which is the year after my friend will have graduated, that they're planning on moving sort of into the centre of the city, so that they're very close to everything. And if they do that, I've already sort of spoken with them about moving in with them and just sort of getting a place for us, sort of a thing. And I've already got enough appliances to fill that place out, including towels and plates and like everything. I've got it all already. Meaning that the only thing I would need is sort of like a pull-out couch, so that we have space for guests without needing a third room. Because then that way my friend will be able to come and visit. So like, I've already got some little things in place. I have family that lives like an hour south of Sydney, so if worst comes to worst, I can sort of see if any of them wouldn't mind me sort of staying with them, and just sort of driving myself in and just having to pay for fuel and for my tolls, and then being able to get some sort of like, that's not ideal either, really, but it is also like an option. So like, you know what I mean, like the things that worry me, I already actively have plan A through Z like in the back of my mind. So yeah, but if I had to pick one, it would definitely be the costs of living in Sydney. So yeah, anyway, that's all I've got for this video. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. If you liked this one, give it a big old thumbs up. The question for myself will be in the description down below, and until next time.